All right, y'all. Once again, I'm coming back. I did a video before. I don't know if the video was great, but I think this one is going to be probably the best video out of the two thus far because this is a principle that probably we all deal with, and it's very important. It's very subtle, but it's very important. And today, I just wanted to talk about something that I was dealing with in my personal life, and that is basically when you in a relationship, any relationship that you're in, whether it is with your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever you're dealing with, when it comes to in relation to other people, um, life is about problems, and you're gonna have problems with everybody, not just with your spouse, but with your kids. You're gonna have problems with your school. You're gonna have problems at your job. You're gonna have problems with business partners. You're gonna have problems with plumbers, electricians. You're gonna have problems with judges. You're gonna have problems with doctors. You're going to have problems. That's one thing that life gives is problems. But most of the time, what people tend to focus on is the person instead of the problem. In my marriage today, I have an issue with my wife. And if I don't communicate with my wife, I understand that I will be focusing more on my wife than I would be focusing on the problem. When you don't communicate, let this be a principle that you have in your mind. If you do not communicate the issues or the problems with the people that you're having the problems with, the issues and problems will become the people instead of the issues and the problems that you're having with the person. Now, biblically, one of my greatest scriptures is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. Therein, in the King James Version, it states, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Let's just emphasize the first, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. And that is, no, 8 words. That is, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. You see, one of the tendencies that we tend to do as human beings is we place more emphasis on the person instead of the problems. That makes us deficient insufficient in our ability to deal with the root cause of what is going on. The root cause is not the person. The root cause is the problem in the person. Say, for instance, you get married, all right? You clearly got a contract. You married this person on your own. Nobody made you do this. And you make vows. Normally, it's the regular vows: sickness and health, to death do us part, rich or poor, whatever, what have you. That is what we say at the altar. But in life, we experience differences. And we find out that sometimes people change. Well, the marriage covenant never changed. You said that way before you had the problem, right? You said, for richer or poor, to death do us part. That means nothing. What could come before death? That you will vacate your responsibility to your husband or your wife? Answer is simple. Nothing should. Nothing should. Now, this agreement that you made, or contract, or covenant, if you will, is something that has conditions in it, certain stipulations within, or provisions within, that must be kept in order to maintain that contract. Okay? And at all times, you should place emphasis on not negating those responsibilities. Because one of the things that they say most of the time when you get married is forsaking all. A lot of people don't feel that, especially today. Today is probably one of the worst times in humanity when it comes to dealing with issues of infidelity and things where people just vial out emotionally. Sometimes the complacency of a marriage really strains the marriage if it's not a strong marriage. And what I mean by strong is spiritual, because everything about a marriage is spiritual. Everything about a marriage is spiritual. Everything is. It's not just because you can be physical with anybody. You can kiss anybody. You can have sex with anybody. That doesn't mean that you have a you spiritually bound to that person. When you get married, it's different than when you are not married and you're functioning as a couple. Because marriage is more, I could do what I want to do, but it better be within the bounds of this contract. It shouldn't be based on how you feel, because if the rate is 60% right now of divorce, imagine what it would be if anybody can just get out of a marriage because of how they feel. I don't feel like I want to be here today. I'm gone. What's the use in having a marriage if it's that way? It shouldn't be that way, right? It's not. And it's not. Marriage is spiritual. It is not just physical. You can be physical with anybody, but that don't mean that you have an agreement or a commitment with that person. Things that you said you were going to hold yourself accountable to. But I digress. And I want to place more emphasis on why we tend to focus on the person instead of the problem, and why is this a huge problem to focus on the person instead of focusing on the problem. Well, you might be asking yourself, well, if it wasn't for the person, there would be no problem, right? But then it would be like this. You're basically saying that if you wasn't with this person, I wouldn't have a problem. But that does not go along with the covenant that you made with this person. You can't, or you could take your kids, for instance. You may get tired of your kids always giving you problems. Are you going to say, I'm done with my kids. I'm tired of feeding them. I'm tired of cooking for them. I'm tired of washing their clothes. I'm tired of them getting in trouble. I'm done. You can't do that. They're your kids. They're your kids. There's an unwritten code of responsibility that comes along with that. They're your children. You have an obligation to do that. You have an obligation to meet their needs regardless of how you may feel. And all of us get tired with our kids. Everybody does. I don't care how cute they are, how lovable they are. They messy. They don't do their work in school sometimes. They make lots of noise. They do a lot of things they're not supposed to do. But we don't change. We stay and hold to that commitment. If we're good parents, we do that. And it should be the same way when it comes to couples. And this is why it's important to communicate your differences. If you don't communicate with people, you are showing that you're focused on the person more than the problem. That's true. That is absolutely true. If you do not effectively communicate with the other person, regardless if it's your spouse, your son, whoever it is, you're a physical, unspiritual person, because you are activating a more superficial approach to a situation that needs spiritual correction. The Bible clearly tells us that we wrestle not with flesh and blood. That's a constant. That's what I build my life on. But what we end up doing is focusing on the person more than focusing on the situation or the problem. And that's where you go wrong. Now, there are some people, like I've come to my wits' end, that there are some people who will use you and manipulate you, emotionally, physically, what have you, to make you think one way, but it's not really that way. And you have to identify that too, because a lot of people are not committed to the things that you committed to. But that don't mean that you're not obligated. Just if my wife decides that she wants to do something that is not right, and I'm noticing and I'm seeing that she's doing things the wrong way and she's not staying committed to that contract, does that negate my responsibilities to that contract? No. No, I don't care how I feel. I may not like her that day. I may not be feeling her. I may not want to. I don't have that choice because of what I said that I was going to be committed to. Now, if she's out here sleeping with other men, if she's staying out doing drugs and acting a fool, for the latter, I can separate. For the other one, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Because you didn't keep to what you were supposed to do. And then I'm not keeping because I said that if you do these things, I'm going by the Bible, that ends everything. Now, there's some people that can, forgive a situation like that, but you're not obligated to, you're not obligated to take somebody's back. You can forgive them, but you don't, because forgiveness is different than living your life with this person. I'm a sole believer in, if you out here cheating on a marriage, you're a rotten, wicked person. You're a rotten and wicked person. Because I guarantee it's people right now that's in hell because of the same very act that you did. The same act that you did. And I wouldn't play with families, with people, emotions like that. That's not right. If you're a good person and you love, you'll be committed to what you said you was going to do. And if you can't do that, then it'd be best for you to just walk away and leave. It shouldn't be a matter of this man saying, I need to give me somebody else because you ain't going to do your job. If you're not committed to doing what you're supposed to do, then why even be there? You said you was going to do this stuff. Why you turning me into the problem instead of turning the problem into what it is and dealing with that? We should be focused on the problem. We should not be focused on one another. When we doing that, we're not doing what God tells us to do. Stop focusing on the person and focus on the problem. Stop getting engaged. Another thing is stop getting engaged with people. A lot of times people go out here and they just get anybody and they try to work things out. I did that twice, man. I did that 2 times. And the second time is not working out for me no more than the first time was. But this one is elevated because it comes at a different time in my life. And it's frustrating me to the point to where I just don't, it's bringing a lot of drama in a situation that doesn't even merit that response. Oh, I want to tell everybody, focus on the problem. Don't focus on the person. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Stop looking at the person, look at the problem, and see if you can work through the problem. If you feel like you can't work through the problem, separate for a time, figure out, reassess, stay committed to your oath and your responsibility and duty to that relationship. Don't negate that. Don't negate that. But sometimes you may need to separate in order to get it together, and figure out where you are. So, but the thing is, most times when people separate, they can separate from the person because of whatever the issue is that they're dealing with, but they can't detach emotionally, physically, from the physical aspect of the relationship. And they go out and get other people, and that's the wrong thing you could do. Because then in my case, there's no bridge for you to get back from that. So my thing is always to place emphasis on the problem and not the person.